The terrifying majesty of sound loosed upon the heads of us two human atoms. At the first rush of snow we had leapt back behind our protecting peak, and lying at full length upon the ground, gripped it and clung there, fearing lest the wind should whirl us to the abyss. Long ago our tent had gone like a dead leaf in an autumn gale, and at times it seemed as if we must follow. The boulders hurtled over and past us. One of them fell upon the little peak, shattering its crest and bursting into fragments, which fled away, each singing its own wild song. We were not touched, but when we looked behind us, it was to see the yak, which had risen in its terror, lying dead and headless. Then in our fear we lay still, waiting for the end, and wondering dimly whether we should be buried in the surging snow, or swept away with the hill, or crushed by the flying rocks, or lifted and lost in the hurricane. How long did it last? We never knew. It may have been 10 minutes or 2 hours, for in such a scene time loses its proportion. Only we became aware that the wind had fallen, while the noise of grinding snow and hurtling boulders ceased. Very cautiously we gained our feet and looked. In front of us was sheer mountain side for a depth of over 2 miles. The width of about 1,000 yards, which had been covered with many feet of snow, was now bare rock. Piled up against the face of our hill, almost to its summit, lay a tongue of snow, pressed to the consistency of ice and spotted with boulders that had lodged there. The peak itself was torn and shattered, so that it revealed great gleaming surfaces and pits, in which glittered mica or some other mineral. The vast gulf behind was half filled with the avalanche and its debris, but for the rest it seemed as though nothing had happened, for the sun shone sweetly overhead, and the solemn snows reflected its rays from the sides of 100 hills, and we had endured it all and were still alive. Yes, and unhurt. But what position was ours? We dared not attempt to descend the mount, lest we should sink into the loose snow and be buried there. Moreover, all along the breadth the paths of the avalanche, boulders from time to time still thundered down the rocky slope, and with them came patches of snow that had been left behind by the big slide, small in themselves, it is true, but each of them large enough to kill 100 men. It was obvious, therefore, that until these conditions changed or death released us, we must abide where we were upon the crest of the hillock. So there we sat, foodless and frightened, wondering what our old friend Kou en would say if he could see us now. By degrees hunger mastered all our sensations, and we began to turn longing eyes upon the headless body of the yak. "Let's skin him," said Leo. "It will be something to do, and we shall want his hide tonight." So with affection and even reverence we performed this office for the dead companion of our journeyings, rejoicing the while that it was not we who had brought him to his end. Indeed, long residence among peoples who believed fully that the souls of men could pass into or were risen from the bodies of animals, had made us a little superstitious on this matter. It would be scarcely pleasant, we reflected, in some future incarnation, to find our faithful friend clad in human form and to hear him bitterly reproach us for his murder. Being dead, however, these arguments did not apply to eating him, as we were sure he would himself acknowledge. So we cut off little bits of his flesh, and rolling them in snow till they looked as though they were nicely floored, hunger compelling us, swallowed them at a gulp. It was a disgusting meal, and we felt like cannibals, but what could we do? End of chapter 4 of H. Rider Haggard, Ayesha, the Return of She. Read by Lars Rolander.